Welcome back, life science learners. So in the previous segment, we've looked at what it means in terms of the loss of biodiversity. In this segment, we're going to look at the second topic, which is solid waste and disposal, and the impact that has on the environment. So let's get straight into this. So in solid waste, we've got to look at what is solid waste. We've got to look at what are the different types of solid waste, and we've got to look at how solid waste is classified. We do know that there's some important words that we need to unpack, and we'll do that as we get through the lesson. So what is solid waste? What is the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable? And we also need to unpack what is hazardous waste. You will see that in this lesson we start off focusing on what is solid waste. Let's try and understand what is solid waste. So in this image you often see these landfills that have heaps of waste that are being filled into land spaces. So that is a solid waste disposal facility. Have you ever thought about what goes into that space? So let's try and understand, what do we mean by solid waste disposal? So what is waste? Waste is also known as rubbish, trash, refuse, garbage, junk, litter, and these are basically unwanted or useless material. So often we find that we tend to waste substances, or the things that you discard for the municipality to take away. That's waste. Waste from buildings, waste from the consumption of food are all regarded as solid waste. In life sciences, waste is any of the many unwanted substances or toxins that are expelled from living organisms from metabolic waste such as urea and sweat. So we know that from a biological perspective, we also produce a lot of waste, and that waste can be carbon dioxide, it can be heat, it can be urea as well as sweat. And so that is a waste product that the body produces because of metabolism. Now, let's try and understand what are the different types of waste that we get and how we classify these. So there are 5 different types of waste if we were broadly speaking about them. You have organic waste, and so organic waste refers to your fresh produce, the peels and the vegetables that you consume and the leftovers of that. We also have hazardous waste, and these hazardous wastes are dangerous and they can cause harm and infection or damage to the environment. We also have solid waste that needs to be disposed of in a sustainable manner. We also have hazardous chemicals that are released from mines and industries that also can be regarded as waste. And then we have recyclable waste, that is things that can be reused or repurposed. And so we're going to look at how other methods of classifying waste products can be used in terms of differentiating what solid waste is. So solid waste, waste in solid forms, domestic, commercial and industrial waste are examples of solid waste. So plastic is an example of solid waste. Styrofoam from packaging, bottles, cans, papers, scrap iron and other trash are all seen as examples of solid waste. So these examples are things that are significantly large, that take up a lot of space, and hence need to be cautious about how we dispose these. So when we look at liquid waste, these are waste in the form of the state of matter which is liquid. So your domestic washing, so from your baths and your toilets, that's domestic washing. Chemicals from industries, oils from industries, wastewater from sewage and from ponds. Manufacturing industries and other sources produce lots of waste in the liquid form. We also have waste in a gaseous state. And so waste is produced in the form of gases from refineries, so methane, carbon dioxide from your fossil fuel production, as well as sulfur dioxide. These are examples of waste that are in a gaseous state. Okay, so that was classification based on state of their matter. Let's look at how waste can be classified according to the origin and type. So we know that we have municipal solid waste, we have waste produced from hospitals, which we refer to as your biomedical waste. We also have industrial waste that's produced from industries that are responsible for the production of commercial goods. We have agricultural waste that is produced by farmers, and these include some of your waste that is not consumed by farmers, so by consumers. So we're talking about the leftover after crops have been taken away. So that's agricultural waste. We also have wastage from fisheries, and these would be parts that are not consumed, so the fins and the internal organs that are disposed of. We also have radioactive waste that are produced from your nuclear power plants. We also have electronic waste, and we're seeing more of this in terms of our computers, our electronic devices, and how these all contribute to waste disposal. Okay, we can also classify waste according to their properties. So by that I mean, are they biodegradable or non-biodegradable? And essentially the terms biodegradable refer to whether these organisms can degrade naturally in the environment. So can these be degraded? Example, paper, wood, fruits and other items that will naturally decompose in the environment. We refer to them as biodegradable, in the sense that if you place these into the soil, they will undergo a gradual process of degradation and be broken up by the microorganisms, by the bacteria, and by some of the invertebrates that live in the soil. We also know that some of the waste that we release into the environment is non-biodegradable. So these cannot be degraded. And examples of that would be plastic, bottles, old machines, so which are made up of metal, cans, styrofoam containers, and others. And we refer to these as non-biodegradable. Some of these takes a few hundred to 1,000 years to actually be broken up naturally into the environment. So we refer to these as non-biodegradable waste. Okay, so here's an image that shows you the differentiation between your degradable and your biodegradable waste. And as you see, I mentioned the examples of your plant material, and these all can be returned into the soil. Human hair will degrade, as well as papers are examples of things that can be shredded and put into the environment and mixed with soil, and gradually they will degrade. However, we also have your non-biodegradable materials, and a classical example of that is your plastic bags that are used, as well as your electronic equipment, so your computers, your PCs, your cell phones. These are your TVs, are all electronic goods that are hardware that will not generally degrade or decompose in the environment. Plastic bottles, glass bottles are examples of your non-biodegradable materials that end up into landfills that pollute the environment if not disposed of effectively. So let's look at the classification of waste also based on the effects that it has on human health. So we also have waste that is hazardous. Hazardous would be waste that can cause harm to humans. So substances that are unsafe to use commercially, industrially, agriculturally, or economically have any of the following properties. So these would include, they are able to be ignited, they are corrosive, or they are reactive or toxic. So these would be things that could cause harm both to humans if they disposed of, or to the animals and plants. So we refer to these as hazardous waste. So they are dangerous to the environment, but they're also dangerous in terms of people living around them. So we will see that certain industries produce corrosive substances that are given off into the environment, into water bodies that are damaging to the water bodies, but also can contaminate these water bodies which humans rely on. So that is hazardous. We also know that there are certain non-hazardous wastes that are produced, and these substances are safe to use commercially, industrially, agriculturally, or economically, and do not have any of those properties mentioned earlier on when we discussed the hazardous. These generally can be disposed of without having significant impact on the environment. So steam, although is hot, but it can be released into cooling towers that gradually release into the atmosphere, which does not have a hazard in terms of the people or the organisms living in that area. Okay, so we've looked at types of waste, we've looked at the different classifications of solid waste, and we've looked at the impact that it has on the environment. Guys, I think it's time we look at some questions and see how the adaptation of our understanding of solid waste can be applied in the context of a question. So this question is adapted from a paper that was written in 2013. It's got a table, and let's look at this table. So the table below shows the different types of waste and the decomposition times, so the time it takes to be broken down. And this is significantly alarming when we look at it in terms of the way we dispose of these waste products. So the types of waste: glass, aluminium, paper, orange peels, nylon fabric, and tin cans. And if you look at them, you will see that glass takes approximately 1 million years to be decomposed. Aluminium cans take between 80 to 200 years to decompose. Paper waste could take between 2 to 6 weeks, which is probably regarded as biodegradable. An orange peel can take up to 6 months to decompose. Nylon fabric, which is what is used in the manufacture of certain synthetic fabrics, could take between 30 to 40 years. A tin can, alarmingly, takes about 50 years. So guys, it's important to note these, especially as we dispose of our waste. So let's explain the term recycling. And I think it's important for us to pause at this point and reflect on the messages that have been sent through during the course of your studies. And we often use the three R's: recycle, reduce, reuse. And again, the concept of recycling refers to the impact that disposing of these waste products would have on the environment. So if we can start recycling certain substances, we will reduce the impact that they have on the environment, because many of these take several hundreds to thousands of years to decompose and return back to their natural state. So let's understand what recycling is. So recycling is the process of converting waste materials into reusable objects, or we say repurposing them, to prevent wastage potentially of useful materials, thereby reducing the consumption of fresh raw materials, energy, as well as reducing air pollution, water pollution, and by decreasing the need for us to conventionally dispose of substances into our landfills. So waste recycling, or recycling, again talks about the way we reuse certain substances or we repurpose them. And that's because in the production of something, a lot of energy has gone in and there was production of waste products. So if we have to dispose of that and not recycle it, it means that we would have to produce more and in turn impact the environment further negatively. Right, so let's look at the next question. Name one type of waste in the table below that can be recycled. So when we look at this table, let's look at one type of waste that can be recycled. So if we think about all of the glass, the aluminium, and the paper waste, a lot of this can be recycled. So recycling again means changing the purpose of this so that we can reuse them, thereby preventing them from being filled up into land space. So paper definitely can be recycled, glass can be recycled, aluminium and tin cans can be recycled and reused for their purposes, which are again going to reduce the impact that they have on solid waste landfills. Explain 2 advantages of recycling. So guys, it's important for us to understand that recycling means that we're reducing on the cost of production and we're reducing the impact that that has on the environment. So we reduce the energy that is required. We're reducing the consumption of raw materials that is required to produce raw products. We're reducing air pollution because it is a product that happens when substances are produced. We're also reducing water pollution. We're reducing what happens in landfills where waste products are deposited. Okay, so reducing the need for conventional waste disposal, as well as reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, are all significant aspects of recycling. And so recycling substances has a huge impact on not just on the prevention of landfills, but also in the terms of the production of substances and the waste products that are produced during the production line. So guys, we've looked at waste disposal. We've tried to apply some of our understanding in the context of how decomposition takes very long for some substances or certain products, and how it's important for us to recycle some of these so that we reduce the impact that goes into the reproduction of more of these substances that we dispose of when we need them. So guys, you've done well. You've stuck into the session. I think you guys deserve a break. Let's have a short break, get some oxygen in those muscles, and we'll tune in for our last segment. Stay tuned after a short while. See you then.